Disclaimer. The following video is an accurate description of a disturbing crime and explicit detail. Please, if you are sensitive to disturbing content and or get easily triggered, please do not watch this. Thank you. Now I must warn you, this part will probably be the most disturbing part of the video, as this is the part that documents the majority of Climbie's injuries, how she came across the injuries, and also the verdict that the judges came to, obviously referring to the sentence that her aunt and her aunt's boyfriend would have received. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm sorry if I seem a bit disturbed in these cases. It's a lot for one person to read. It's also a lot for one person to have to imagine while they're reading it. I'm a very visual person, so a lot of the stuff I'm actually reading I will actually be picturing while I'm reading it out. That's just how I am. But anyway, we're going to get into it again. On the 24th of February 2000, Victoria Climbie was taken semi-conscious and suffering from hypothermia, multiple organ failure, and malnutrition to the local Universal Church of the Kingdom of God. With the advice of the pastor, a minicab was called to send Climbie to the hospital. The minicab driver was horrified at Climbie's condition and sent her to the nearby Tottenham ambulance station instead. Climbie was rushed straight to the accident and emergency department at North Middlesex Hospital. She was then transferred to the intensive care unit at St Mary's Hospital. The ambulance crew drove her to St Mary's described how although KO had kept saying, my baby," her concern seemed not quite enough, and that Manning seemed almost as if he was not there. Climbie died the following day at 3:15 p.m. local time. Rest in peace, Victoria Climbie. The pathologist who examined her body noted 128 separate injuries and scars on her body and described it as the worst case of child abuse she had ever seen. Climbie had been burnt with cigarettes, tied up for periods of longer than 24 hours, hit with bike chains, hammers and wires. During her life in Britain, Climbie was known to 4 local authorities, which was 4 social services departments and 3 housing departments, 2 child protection police teams, 2 hospitals, an NSPCC centre, and a few local churches. She was buried in Grand Bassam near her hometown. KL was arrested on the day that Climbie died and Manning the following day. KL told police, "It is terrible. I have just lost my child." On the 20th of November 2000 at the Old Bailey, the trial into her death opened, where KL and Manning were charged with child cruelty and murder. KL denied all charges and Manning pleaded guilty to charges of cruelty and manslaughter. The judge described the people in Climbie's case as blindingly incompetent. In his diary, Manning described Climbie as Satan and said that no matter how hard he hit her, she did not cry or show signs that she was hurt. On the 12th of January 2001, both were found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. The judge said to them, "What Victoria endured was truly unimaginable. She died at both your hands a lonely, drawn-out death. KO went to Durham prison and Manning went to Wakefield prison." So that was a bit of backstory on the injuries and how she died. As you heard, hypothermia, multiple organ failure. I mean, for a child, this is just, it's shocking to say the least, and it's deeply, deeply saddening and upsetting. It really is. It's, for anyone who has children, you're probably listening to this now and you know how deeply upsetting and disturbing this really is. Even people who don't have children, I'm sure you can appreciate that this is the pain that this girl would have gone through is really just shocking. Really just abhorrent. No one should, not even adults, should ever have to go through pain like that in their life. There are a few more details about what happened to do with, obviously, following Climbie's death. There was an inquiry into it to, try and work out what exactly caused it and what was actually going on in the Climbie household. So I'm going to get into that now. On the 20th of April 2000, the Health Secretary Alan Milburn and the Home Secretary Jack Straw appointed William Laming, Lord Laming, former Chief Inspector of the Social Services Inspectorate, or the SSI, to conduct a statutory inquiry into Climbie's death. Laming was given the choice of staging a public inquiry or a private inquiry. He chose a public inquiry. It was the first inquiry to be set up by two Secretaries of State. The inquiry was actually three separate inquiries, together called the Victoria Climbie Inquiry, as it held a statutory base of three pieces of legislation: Section 81 of the Children Act of 1989, Section 84 of the National Health Service Act 1977, and Section 49 of the Police Act 1996. It drew together the involvement of social services, the NHS and the police, and became the first tripartite inquiry into child protection. The counsel to the inquiry was Neil Garnham QC, and the counsel for Victoria's parents were Joanna Dodson QC. The inquiry, based in Hannibal House, Elephant and Castle, London, cost £3.8 million, making it the most expensive child protection investigation in British history. The website victoria-climbie-inquiry.org.uk was created, where all the evidence and documents were made available freely. The inquiry was launched on the 31st of May 2001 and was split into two phases. Phase 1 investigated the involvement of people and agencies in Climbie's death in the form of hearings. 270 witnesses were involved. Phase 1 hearings began on the 26th of September 2001 and finished on the 31st of July 2002. It was originally supposed to end on the 4th of February 2002, but late documents caused delays. Now, Phase 2 of the inquiry, taking place between the 15th of March 2002 and the 26th of April 2002, took the form of 5 seminars, which looked at the child protection system in general. It was chaired by Garnham and brought together experts in all aspects of child protection. So Laming was actually had a bit of controversy come his way. I'll explain that now, just so you get a brief understanding of what happened with Laming. Laming's appointment was controversial as he had been director of Hertfordshire County Council Social Services Department in the 1990s, a department which was strongly criticised for its handling of a child abuse case and which led to the local government ombudsman making a finding of maladministration with justice. Sorry, I was having a bit of a struggle reading that word. Against them in 1995. The father of the child in the case said of Laming's appointment, "I don't see how he has the qualifications or experience to be able to lead an investigation into another borough which has been failing to protect a child in exactly the same manner that his own authority failed to protect a child in 1990. Liberal Democrat spokesman Paul Burstow said the findings of the Ombudsman in the Hertfordshire case must give rise to questions about Lord Laming's appointment to head this inquiry. And Conservative Party spokesman Liam Fox said, "I think the government maybe should have thought twice about this and maybe, even yet, they will think again." The Department for Health, however, said that they were fully confident that he is the right person to conduct the inquiry. So now we're going to get into, there was a lot about evidence obstruction. Obviously you heard about evidence was late to come, which delayed the case even further, and I'm going to explain that now. Several documents were submitted late or under suspicious circumstances to the inquiry. A report by the SSI was submitted late because the SSI presumed the document was not relevant to the inquiry. The report was produced in April 2001 but was not handed over to the inquiry until 2002. An earlier report by the Joint Review about Haringey Social Services was heavily relied upon during the inquiry, said that service users were generally well served. The SSI report said that the former report presented an overly positive picture of Haringey's social services, particularly children's services. Further documents were received late when Haringey's counsel handed in 71 case documents 5 months after the hearings began. Lamin said it shows a blatant and flagrant disregard to the work of this inquiry. The people involved were threatened with disciplinary action. This was not the first time that Haringey's counsel did not produce documents on time, which led Lamin to say to its chief executive, "It is a long, sad and sorry saga of missed dates and missed timetables." Garnham warned that Haringey senior managers who had access to the documents would enjoy an unfair advantage in the inquiry, but Lamin said that he was determined that Haringey is not given any advantage. The inquiry found contradictory information in the NSPCC's file. One file said that Climbie's case was accepted for ongoing service, whilst another computer record made after Climbie's death said that no further action was to be taken, suggesting the possibility that records may have been changed. Documents given to the inquiry may have also been altered. The NSPCC provided photocopies of original documents which had alterations in them, saying that the originals were lost. However, the originals were later produced with pressure from the inquiry. The NSPCC held an internal investigation but found no evidence of deception. So the findings of the hearings of the court case for Victoria. The inquiry that heard many of the councils were understaffed, underfunded and poorly managed. The chief executive of Brent Council said its social services department was seriously defective. I think that's an understatement, really. I think they're completely negligent, and it's disgusting the way they handled this case, with absolutely no care at all. The inquiry was told that many cases at Brent Social Services were closed inappropriately before inspection by the Social Services Inspectorate, that children were being placed unaccompanied in bed and breakfast accommodation, and that children in need were turned away. The inquiry heard how Edward Armstrong had previously been ordered not to work with children over his handling of a case in 1993. Haringey and Brent councils diverted £18.7 million and over £26 million respectively in the 2 years between 1997 and 1998 to 1998 and 1999 from its social services department into services such as education for other purposes. Both underspent their budgets for children's services, totalling £28 million by more than £10 million in 1998 between 1999, causing a deterioration of child protection services. The inquiry heard how Haringey Council failed to assign social workers to 109 children in May 1999, a short period before they took on Climbie's case. Again, in January 2002, Haringey Council failed to assign social workers to about 50 children. Haringey Council wrote a letter to Lamin claiming that social workers who gave evidence were being questioned more harshly than other witnesses. Lamin condemned the letter, saying, "I will not tolerate any covert attempt to influence the way in which the inquiry is conducted." Mary Richardson, the Director of Social Services at Haringey from the 1st of April 1998 until the 31st of March 2000, had been responsible for a restructuring of the department which, according to the union Unison, had virtually paralysed the Children Protection Service. She received contact from 12 senior practitioners and team managers criticising the proposals as potentially dangerous and detrimental to the people to whom we offer a service. Richardson provided no substantial response to the memorandum. She did, however, say in the inquiry that the blame lay on part of all of the line management responsibility. Gurbukh Singh, the former chief executive of Haringey Council, before becoming the chairman of the Commission for Racial Equality, said that there was nothing that he could have done to prevent Climbie's death. Garnham contrasted this with Rossiter's willingness to accept responsibility, saying, "That willingness to acknowledge error is at least the root, is it not, of progress." Cowell herself was called to the inquiry, becoming the first convicted murderer to appear in person in a public inquiry. She initially refused to answer questions, and when she did, protested her innocence, first in French, then raising her voice in anger in English, giving evidence by video link from prison. Manning apologised for his actions and said that it was not the fault of the various agencies that Climbie died. Broadcasters applied for access to this video, but Lyman refused the application. Climbie's parents gave evidence and were present at most of the hearings, becoming distressed when hearing of Climbie's plight and seeing pictures of her injuries. They blamed Haringey Council and its chief executive for Climbie's death. Arthur Worry, a junior worker with only 19 months of child protection experience when she took on Climbie's case, was found to have made mistakes in the case. She accused her employer of making her a scapegoat and criticised her superiors and department for not guiding her properly. The inquiry heard that Arthur Worry was overworked, taking on more cases than guidelines would allow. Carol Baptiste, who is Arthur Worry's first supervisor, initially refused to attend the hearings, but subsequently gave vague responses to the inquiry and said that she had been suffering from mental illness at the time. Baptiste's own child was taken into care a few months before Climbie's death. Arthur Worry said that in their meetings, Baptiste spent most of the time discussing her experiences as a black woman and her relationship with God, rather than child protection cases, and that she was frequently absent. Baptiste admitted that she had not read Climbie's file properly. She was removed in November 1999 when she was found to be professionally unfit for her job, and replaced by Angela Mears, who became Arthur Worry's new supervisor. Mears was accused by Arthur Worry of not maintaining childcare standards and of removing an important document which recommended that Climbie's case be closed from Climbie's file on the 28th of February 2000, the day the news of the death was known, but she denied this. Mears said that she had not read Climbie's file. The inquiry heard that the number of child protection police officers in the Metropolitan Police Service was reduced to increase the number of murder investigation officers because of the Stephen Lawrence case in 1993. A detective inspector supervising 6 child protection teams in London at the time of Climbie's death wrote a report criticising their incompetence. His former boss, however, claimed that he had been lying when he said he had only held purely administrative responsibility for the teams. The detective inspector was taken to the hospital when a woman poured ink over his head while testifying. The new chief executive of Haringey Council, David Warwick, Baptiste, the Metropolitan Police and the NSPCC all apologised for their failings in this case. So, I know that was quite long to sit and listen to. I don't blame half of you if you clicked off halfway through. It was a lot to read out as well. Basically, what we can get from this is Climbie's parents don't actually blame Climbie's auntie for her death, even though Climbie's auntie was the one abusing Climbie. They blame many authorities, social services, NSPCC, for apparently gross negligence, which is Yes, they were negligent, but I don't think they directly led to Climbie's death, in my opinion. It's a good thing that both the killers have got life behind bars, and that's this bit of the video finished. I believe there is more to read, so we'll get onto that now. So, there's not much more to this case that I haven't already told you. I will leave. One second. I will leave a link to the official inquiry from the gov.uk website if you wanted to read that in the description. Now, there is a picture of Victoria Climbie after the attacks. They've had multiple pictures taken of her. I personally don't feel comfortable with showing these pictures, just because they are so graphic and it's really disturbing to see. It just feels like a lot to have to show a small child has been through something like this. There will be pictures in this video. Obviously, you would have seen them already now because it's the last bit of the video, but there'll be pictures of Climbie's parents, Climbie's auntie. But I will not be putting any pictures of Climbie's injuries in this video. They're easily findable. If you want to go and Google it and have a look for yourself, feel free, but they will not be in this video. If you've got to the end of this video, I want to say thank you. I know this is a longer video, and I know some people don't like longer videos. They like short, compact, lot of information squeezed into a short video, but there's just so much information in this case that I couldn't squeeze it down without cutting out key bits. So I just felt it would be better to have all the information in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to, read the inquiry for yourself, a link is in the description to the official gov.uk Climbie inquiry. Thank you for watching this video. Thanks for all the support on my recent videos as well. It means a lot. As you can tell, I'm having a bit of trouble talking now. Number one, a result of talking so much, and number two, a result of just how deeply disturbing it is. A couple of times I nearly welled up in this video. It's really difficult to read, and it's just as difficult to imagine what she was going through. Last thing now, to finish off the video, like I said, thank you for watching. Thank you for those who have been sharing my videos, commenting, liking. I really appreciate all the love, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.